The Lana is a nritta dance which lays emphasis primarily on the rhythmic aspect of Bharatanatyam. And towards the end of the song, there is usually a lyric in praise of a god or a goddess. In this case, it is in praise of Krishna, where the gopis or the milkmaids of Vrindavan say, O Krishna, we worship you with all our hearts. Will you not show compassion and come down and sing and dance with us and delight our souls?
கண்ணா உன்னை நானே துதித்தேனே மனமிறங்கி அருள்வாய் கண்ணா உன்னை நானே துதித்தேனே மனமிறங்கி அருள்வாய் வந்து நீ ஆடி பாடி விளையாடி உறவாடி என்னை காத்திடுவாய் வந்து நீ ஆடி பாடி விளையாடி. கண்ணா உன்னை நானே துதித்தேனே மனமிறங்கி அருள்வாய் வந்து நீ ஆடி பாடி விளையாடி உறவாடி என்னை காத்திடுவாய். தீம் தீம் சரி சதா பமதபதீம் விமத பமதீம் சததிங்கின தொந்தீம் தீம் சரி சதா பமதபதீம் விமதபமதீம் சததிங்கின தொம்பமபதீம் ததிங்கின தொம் சதப ததிங்கின தொம் சதீப ததிங்கின தொம்பமபதீம் ததிங்கின தொம் சதப ததிங்கின தொம் சதீப ததிங்கின தொம் நதிருதனி தொம் திருதனி தொம் தனி தொம் ததும் 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 ததிங்கின தொம் தாம் ததும் 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 ததிங்கின தொம் தாம் ததும் 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 ததிங்கின தொம் தீம் 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 தனன தீம் ததிரன திரன ததிரன தனதிரன தீம் 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 தனன தீம் ததிரன திரன ததிரன தனதிரன தீம் 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 தனன தீம் ததிரன திரன ததிரன தனதிரன தீம் திரன ததிரன தனதிரன தீம் திரன ததிரன தனதிரன தீம்.
Good morning. My name is Mark Johanningsmeyer. I'm a member of the fellowship here and part of the new teams that are planning and conducting the Sunday services. I'm also a United Methodist minister in retirement. On behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of San Miguel, I extend this welcome to each of you. Whoever you are, wherever you are at this very moment, whatever religious background you may have or lack thereof, whoever you love, we welcome you. Welcome you gladly. You can be yourself here among us. I invite you to look in today's order of service. Here you have the printed folders. At home, you'll find that at our website. There you'll find and information about membership and all kinds of other things. Now, here is a word from Margaret Johnson.
Hi, I'm Margot Johnson, and I'm one of 8 members of our fellowship who have been charged to come up with a plan and to know what you all think about the future of ministry in our fellowship. And that's kind of a mouthful, so we shortened it to our job is to find out what y'all want. And we really want to know what y'all want, each one of you, not just a few, not 10%, not 50%, but 100% of you to really tell us what it is that you want for the future of ministry here. So we will be contacting you in some way. We're not sure exactly what that method's going to be. It may be several methods, but we hope to hear from each of you because we really do want to know what y'all want. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Bonnie McDowell, representing the COVID task force this morning. I add my welcome to all of you. Some good news on the COVID front. Vaccinations continue for all adults in SMA. The US and Canada are vaccinating kids. The more folks around the world that get vaccinated, the sooner this pandemic will come under control. Research is also continuing at a rapid pace. This week, we got news of antiviral pills for treatment of COVID, including one which will be made available globally at low cost. That's great. New treatments will save lives. But to put the brakes on the pandemic, we still need more vaccinations everywhere. You may have heard that breakthrough infections are occurring, and they're not uncommon. They are more likely to be milder cases of COVID, but some will still be very serious. There are still a lot of unvaccinated folks around us. Dia de los Muertos brought many unmasked visitors to SMA last week. So even though we're all really tired of this, the safest plan now is to continue the precautions we know so well. A question for you. Have you been talking yourself out of doing what you know is best? We're doing a stellar job of taking precautions at our services here in the Aldea. So thank you to everyone who helps us to gather safely. Stay well, my friends.
At Tufts University in Massachusetts. He's been a frequent visitor here in San Miguel. He's spoken here at the UUFSMA in San Miguel 4 times. Ravi earned an MBA at Boston University. He's co-author of 2 books, the Mala of the Heart and the Mala of Love. Wonderful anthologies of wisdom teachings. Well, we welcome you and welcome you gladly to this service today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and see so many familiar faces and friends. As Mark said, I've been visiting here for about 11 years now, and it would seem that I really love the place. Yes, I do. Hopefully, I will be able to give you some information about Diwali, the Festival of Light, that you may not have heard.
We begin each gathering acknowledging the presence of one another and the presence of the holy. The candle that we light in this chalice is simply a symbol, but it represents so much.
Around the world, people are lighting up the sky with fireworks and dressing up their homes with colorful decor and candles. It's Diwali, the Festival of Lights. The word Diwali was inspired from a Sanskrit word called Deepavali, which means rows of lit lamps. And that's why Diwali is known as the Festival of Lights. The 5-day festival is celebrated every fall by Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and some Buddhists. Hindus celebrate Diwali to rejoice Lord Ram's return home after being exiled for 14 years and defeating a king known as Ravan. Jains celebrate the festival to mark the spiritual awakening of their lord, Mahavira. Sikhs celebrate Diwali to commemorate their spiritual leader Guru Har Gobind's return to Amritsar, a city in northern India, after being imprisoned. And some Buddhists celebrate the festival to honor their emperor Ashoka's decision to follow a path of peace and converting to Buddhism, after witnessing a lot of killings. Although these 4 religions have different reasons for celebrating Diwali, what they all have in common is the concept of new beginnings, light over darkness, and good over evil. Diwali is celebrated with prayers, fireworks, candles lit inside of clay pots, rangolis, which are colored patterns drawn on the ground with colored rice or powder, and it's also a good reason to invite friends and family over for a big meal.
There are numerous strings in your lute. Let me add my own among them.
There are numerous strings in your lute. Let me add my own among them.
Then when you smite your chords, my heart will break its silence.
And my heart will be one with your song.
There are numerous strings in your lute. Let me add my own among them.
Amidst your numberless stars,
dance of your festival of lights. My heart will throb and my life will be one with your smile. There are numerous strings in your lute. Let me add my own among them.
There are numerous strings in your lute. Let me add my own among them.
We have words that have been created here in San Miguel within this fellowship. Words that were and are based in the principles and the values of the Unitarian Universalist Association. You'll find in your order of service and on your screen the words of our covenant. I will lead the English version. Diana Amaya will lead the Spanish. We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
Respetamos todos los estilos de vida dentro de su red interdependiente y trabajamos por un mundo justo y pacífico. Alentamos la búsqueda de la verdad y la comprensión total. Nos esforzamos por mantener compasión en nuestras relaciones y buscamos valores que beneficien nuestras vidas y las vidas de los demás. Este es nuestro convenio.
Good morning. I'm Joan Wolf of the CARE team, and today's Joys and Concerns are going to be kind of short because we didn't hear anything from people, but we know that each and every one of us carries joys and concerns in our hearts. So I'm going to light one candle for the joys and concerns we all carry.
be here in person today. Every week we try and highlight one of our NGOs, and this week we're going to highlight Jóvenes Adelante. Jóvenes is an organization that provides support for college education and training for highly motivated, high-performing, and dedicated students who lack the financial resources and support to achieve those goals on their own. Jóvenes has 119 students and 97 mentors. It has a staff to coordinate volunteers and assist with language tutoring. It provides special skill-building workshops, upgraded computers, and helps with emergent needs. The students provide quarterly reports on their progress, and their personal mentors pay close attention to them and the challenges that they will face. This fellowship is sponsoring 5 of those students. We are their support, and we're their extra family. In addition to our financial grants, numerous members have become involved as personal mentors over the years. This year, our support has really been more than necessary. Because of COVID and the variant, our students have dealt with illness, loss within their families, isolation, difficulties with jobs, and the challenges of hybrid learning. They've missed out on valuable personal interactions with teachers and with fellow students, and yet they have persisted through this difficult time. They recognize that they have developed new strengths and demonstrated much flexibility to deal with these challenges and to continue on their paths. The students also recognize and are immensely grateful for the help that they have received from this congregation and from Jóvenes. Higher education is one of the most powerful gifts that we can give to the future. During this musical interlude, we invite you to give generously. Your offering will be most gratefully received. Thank you.
Mahalakshmiashtakam Stotram is a hymn in praise of Goddess Mahalakshmi, the goddess of wealth and prosperity. In this hymn, she is described as the primordial energy and the mother of the universe.
Diwali is probably close to 3,000 years old. The Indian Hindu calendar is 2078 this year. So it's based on the story of Ramayana. And Ramayana is the second largest epic in verse form ever written. It's the second largest because the largest one is the story of Arjuna and Krishna, which is the Mahabharata. And Ramayana is about 25,000 verses, whereas the Mahabharata is about 100,000 verses. So Diwali celebrates the return of Lord Rama after a 14-year exile, during which his wife Sita, the queen, was abducted by the demon king Ravana of Sri Lanka. The Rama came back from having won Sita back from Sri Lanka. The demon king with 10 heads, basically a very big ego. He thought he could run off with the queen, and then there is also in it the story of Hanuman, the monkey god. Now Hanuman apparently was the most devoted of all of Rama's friends and disciples. All day long his practice was to just keep on saying Rama, 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 as a mantra. So he was eternally focused on all of that. So the celebration of light, why is it the celebration of light? Why is it the lighting of all of these little diyas? Growing up, the maids, and when I was growing up, my paternal grandmother lived with us, and she passed away when I was about 6 years old in Bombay. And the maternal grandmother lived about 10 miles away. So during the Diwali, that whole week, it was going back and forth with all kinds of desserts and sweets and great meals. But on the day of Diwali, we just passed that on November the 4th, you would get up one would be woken up at dawn, and you would be dressed up in new clothes, especially the ladies and the aunts and the cousins and the nieces, and they would all be wearing their finest clothes all day long, and probably for the 5 days of Diwali, because the next day would be the New Year. As this year Diwali was on the 4th of November, New Year's was on the 5th, and New Year's is where you just saw this last video, which is a North Indian rendition of dance worshipping Mahalakshmi, the goddess of wealth. That means spiritual and material wealth. So one would go as a group, that would be the day all the women would also be in the office. So there'd probably be like 100 people in my dad's offices. And you would open the ledgers and the books of accounting, and you would make a Shri, which is a symbol for Lakshmi, and you would do a little puja with special, I don't know how to say it, but there was vermilion and some saffron and you would write the Shri and then the name of Ganesha on each page. This was and they would be exchanging of gifts at the office, and every employee that was there with or without their family would be exchanging gifts as well, and you would give envelopes of cash. On New Year's Day itself, one would have spent the whole morning after getting up early, visiting friends and relatives and uncles and aunts, and depending on the relationship you have with each family, you would carry all kinds of gifts to them. Because the day before Diwali, what happened was that it turned out to be the biggest shopping festival in all of India. It is really the largest shopping season in India because Indians have been buying silver and gold officially and unofficially for over 2,000 years. So the amount of money they spend on gathering this and giving to each other is a symbol of gratitude and forgiveness that all of these people are my family, all of these people I really love. It was the festival of light in the sense that it is the victory, as you heard in that little clip, a victory of light over darkness. We are creatures of light. Whether we like it or not, we are all going to go back into the same source we came out of, and that is light. We will disappear into light. An enlightened person, or probably there is hundreds of them sitting quietly in various corners of the world, they are filled with light. So as humans, when we are not thinking, when we are in a thoughtless state, the ego is not present, and we are back into the light. So the celebration where Rama's father-in-law, Lord Janaka, Sita's father, was one of the most enlightened rulers, a very benevolent man and a very, very benevolent ruler. Now, it is important to mention that 2 weeks before Diwali started on supposedly the darkest night in the month of Kartika. So because it's a lunar calendar, so we have just passed the darkest night. The days get shorter, there is less light, there is less sunlight. And the story goes that it is because of this that they decided to have this festival of light and meeting and gathering. And now we don't know how many thousand people would meet 3,000 years ago without electricity, and they needed a lot of light. They needed to light a lot of diyas. But the tradition continued that the maids and everyone in every home would take little clay. They would make these clay things, and the maids would make the wicks and burn the diyas in ghee, all clarified butter, all night long, and probably would go on for the whole week. It was quite fascinating in the sense that there were so many stories being told about, but the main memory of the whole couple of weeks, or maybe the whole month, because 10 days before Diwali or so, there is a festival of Navaratri, the 9 goddesses. Mahalakshmi is one of them. And there is a tremendous amount of all-night dancing. You could find a lot of this on YouTube, especially in Gujarat and Rajasthan and Western India and Northern India. The traditions in South India are a lot different, but still. The rumor is that they, at that time, believed that there should be 365 festivals a year. Every day was a celebration, so let's make a racket. Now, why the fireworks? The fireworks, the case went to the Supreme Court of India that fireworks should be banned because they are just a symbol of merriment and they're not really useful and they create a lot of pollution. And then people presented evidence that the theory of the fireworks and the burning of the fireworks, whether the sparklers existed 3,000 years ago or not, is very, very relevant to sending the ancestors that have visited us. Now, in many traditions, this is there, right? Our ancestors come down to earth to visit us, to look after us, to bless us again. And this is the season when it happens. This is the time, October, November, when this, and the fireworks, the story is that it is to send them safely back home, you light up the sky. It wasn't useless. So, whenever a government has tried to ban the hoarding of gold, or that government has collapsed in India. The people won, and the fireworks are going on full blast, and that's how it is. So Dhanteras, the 13th day of the waning moon, and then the 14th day of the waning moon, and then the new moon, These are where you do all these pujas, you worship the goddesses, you bring in, new beginning is about new clothes. New beginning is about new jewelry. New beginning is about forgiving and forgetting and letting the past be the past. Do not dwell on it. It is tied in a much bigger way to the whole philosophy of enlightenment. The very first video where you saw Krishna dancing with the gopis, again, the myth is that 1600 beautiful women, young, would be dancing around one figurehead of Krishna. But it signifies unity, consciousness. When you lose your mind and your thinking ego and your separate identity, because the separate identity is essentially just the ego. So then all of this, it would start to make sense. Those days when one was a kid, it was just fun. It was merriment. It was, I want to do this and I want to take these gifts to this one's house and, and all day you were eating all sorts of things. But then the digestion was much better than it is now. So the grandmas, they were so sweet. They were so unbelievably loving. The maternal grandmother to whose house we went would spend between 3 and 6 hours a day in her little temple room. Room was maybe 6 feet by 8 feet or something, but all day long she'd be doing puja and she would come out and just offer you this to eat and that to eat. You get really spoiled when you start talking about Indian food and Indian restaurant. And the paternal grandmother was deeply into all of this philosophy. I don't remember 2 days going by without her telling me some story out of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata. That was what she read, the scriptures all day long. So it was a big change when she passed away and I was 6 years old. Now all of this activity in the New Year's morning, and then it starts tapering down, but these things have been happening for a month, depending, and people would visit from to the big city, Bombay, let's say, from, it was quite, you had to prepare for this whole thing. I mean, given that it was month long, but as a child, one was very happy. One was very, very delighted with all of these celebrations. Now, it has also been questioned whether it is in a nation of 1,300 million people with 30 official languages and 180 dialects, and people wonder whether this is really the largest festival in the world that is celebrated on one particular day of a new moon, or is it just hype? It's not hype. You got to go there. And if you are able to see the traveling and the noise and the firecrackers and the skies lit up, it is quite an amazing event. So it does you proud. It makes you happy, no matter what age. You have got all these friends around you. I mean, they would send someone down when at the end of the day, towards sunset, or after sunset really, when you want to light the fireworks, they would send someone with you, because one is very young and you could get injured, and kids do get injured with all the fireworks. But these are the ways we as humans celebrate, and unfortunately or fortunately, it turns out to be the biggest shopping season all across the world, November and December and Christmas. But this is where it is. It is the season of giving and receiving and improving your karma, and however you want to look at it. But it is really a season of forgetting the whole of the past year. Whatever has happened and whoever you think is responsible for it is just your thought process. I mean, it is something that you've had to experience, and as my dad would say, whatever happens is for the best. Now, when I taught at Tufts, and I started the first year in '98, I taught there for maybe 13, 14 years. And I proposed this thing that whatever happens, happens for the best. Half the class didn't want to listen to it. They were like, no, what are you talking about? But as you grow older, you realize it is all for the best. So, in terms of the lights, are streets lit up? Are offices lit up? Are shopping centers and malls? Yes, everything is lit up. You know, just like Christmas here, or and why is it that we cannot really survive in any kind of darkness, especially mental, unless we are happy, we think positive thoughts, we just land up in disease. So it is also, were there sparklers, were there fireworks 3,000 years ago? When did this start happening? But in terms of time and all these questions, I don't think it is important to figure out when they created the first sparkler. What is important is to cherish these memories, cherish these connections that we have with the few people that we call family. None of us know 108 people by name that you can call tonight. We walk around with this little world in our heads and make believe, but that's a dark little world in the head. Need to light it up a bit. So I thoroughly enjoyed those festivals. I was fortunate enough to be in different places during Diwali, which was also, and the tradition still goes on wherever there are Indians. There's a lot of them in England. I lived in London for 11 years. The way it's celebrated is completely much different from the way it's celebrated in India. In the States, there is not much of it. In New York, there is, of course, but I lived in Boston. There wasn't that much, except for a few Indian families. I lived 10 years in Boston and then 7 years in San Francisco, and hardly anything. You know, all it would mean is to try and find the best Indian meal, which would be probably in the crummiest part of town in San Francisco, but it would be authentic Indian food. So, I mean, did anyone ever talk about someone falling sick? Not really. During Diwali? No, never heard of it. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. We're now going to sing the hymn.
We can invite people to stand.
Okay.
We can stand and sing. It's
This little light of
118.
118. This little light of mine.
Before I share the the closing words for this service, I have a very practical, mundane thing I want to ask. Many of you in this room are wearing name tags. Don't walk out with them. Leave them at the door, if you would. And now these words by poet Ellen Bass. What is this life but a miracle? What is this but the improbable, marvelous reward of desire? Desire, that fire I was taught to suspect, that intensity I struggled to calm. Don't want too much, voices warned. But no, want life. Want this fragile oasis in the galaxy to flourish. Want fertility. Want seasons. Want the spectacle array of creatures in this world, this brilliant balance of need. Yes, want it. Want it all. Desire, welcome her raging power. May her strength course through us. Desire, she is life. Desire life. And allow ourselves to desire life, to want this sweetness so passionately that we live for it always. Ellen Bass. And now, in this time, this little light in this room is going to go out. But the light goes forth in you, and in you, and in you. May it be so.
Whatever you call as joy, whatever you know as happiness, did the joy rain upon you or did it blossom within and find an external expression? Which way was it? It always came from within, isn't it so? Have you noticed at a certain moment when you're very happy, just walking is celebration? Do you see every step that you take, every breath that you take is celebration? So the question is not about what you're drinking, what you're eating, what kind of atmosphere you're in. You're joyful. It's the inner atmosphere which decides the celebration, not the external. If you're happy, life is celebration, isn't it? That's how it should be.